Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chapter 1 notes for Algebra 2 over the McGraw-Hill Algebra 2 textbook. Section 1-1 is entitled Expressions and Formulas. This will be a 2-video set covering the first section of Chapter 1. This section is entirely review of skills that you should already have coming into Algebra 2, so we will move rather quickly through these notes. This section covers order of operations, evaluating, and using a formula. So here we go. This will be a 2-video set. This is video 1 of 2. A variable is defined as a symbol used to represent an unknown value. In algebra, we tend to use x, y, z, a, b, and c. It doesn't necessarily mean that we won't use other letters, but those are the ones we tend to use. Any of those could represent any unknown value. When we take those and we combine them with numbers, we create mathematical statements known as an algebraic expression. An algebraic expression is a mathematical statement containing at least one variable. Now, every single year since middle school, you have been working with algebraic expressions, evaluating them, making sure you know what order to solve them in, and that is done using what is called order of operations. Now, all the way through, you've been learning an acronym known as PEMDAS to evaluate if we know all of the variable values. So, PEMDAS, let's review that real quick. I like to write it vertically as such. P stands for parentheses. We're going to start with parentheses. We will start at the inside and work our way out. There are 3 types of parentheses, and should we need to go further, we would then wrap around and continue. So we have parentheses themselves. We have brackets, which are square. And we have braces. But all of these are grouping symbols, and we will always work from the inside to the outside. So we'll start by simplifying anything inside of parentheses, working from the inside out. And if necessary, we will layer them: parentheses, then brackets, then braces, then parentheses, then brackets, then braces, etc. After we have simplified anything inside of parentheses, our next step, E, is to simplify any exponents. So if we have any powers, any squared, cubed, 4th power, 5th power, that would happen after we have simplified any parentheses in the expression. Then you'll notice I've written M and D together. That's because we are then going to multiply and divide at the same time. And we always work from the right, or from left to right. We always work from left to right. After we've completed any multiplication and division, we would then carry out any addition and subtraction at the same time. And again, we will work from left to right. So we start with simplifying parentheses, then we carry out simplifying exponents, then we multiply and divide from left to right, and then we add and subtract from left to right. Okay, so here are some examples of evaluation. This is where we're going to use our order of operations. You'll see problems that say evaluate, and then they have some variables, and within the expression they give you, in the directions, the values of those variables. So we're going to take that 1 and we're going to put it in for x, and we're going to take this 4 and we're going to put it in for y. So this expression will become 1 minus 4 cubed plus 3. Now we're going to be using PEMDAS to do this. So we should write that somewhere so we can look at it and make sure we're working. We start with parentheses, so we would start with 1 minus 4, which is 3. So we have 3 to the 3rd power plus 3. Then we would carry out the exponent. 3 to the 3rd power is 27 plus 3, which is 30. So the value of that expression is 30. Same thing on the next example. We're going to take the 12 and we're going to plug that in for m. We're going to take the negative 1 and we're going to plug that in for n. Now we need to be a little bit careful here. So we plug in 12 plus 3 minus negative 1 quantity squared. So when we subtract a negative 1, that gives us two negatives in a row, which becomes a positive. We would start by simplifying the parentheses. 3 plus 1 is 4. So we have 12 plus 4 squared. Then we would do the exponent. 4 squared is 16. Gives us 12 plus 16. There is no multiplication and division, so we would add left to right, and we would get a value of 28. Do a couple more of these on this video. So here are some harder ones. There's a lot more going on here. But again, we're going to go in. We're going to take that 2. We're going to put it in for x everywhere that x appears. We're going to take that negative 1. That'll be inserted for both of the y's in the expression. And we're going to take the 5 and we're going to put it in for both of the z's. So that would give us the following expression. 2 to the third power minus 8 times negative 1 times 5 over negative 1 to the second power plus 3 times 5. Now, I know that you see parentheses there. However, those parentheses are not anything that need to be simplified. They are indicating multiplication. So we do not have a parentheses step for our PEMDAS. We're going to move directly into simplifying our exponents. So, actually let's take a step back. The division bar here is a bit tricky. Basically that means we have brackets, we have big parentheses around the bottom and the top. So we have to do the bottom and the top sort of separately before we carry out that division. The top has to be simplified down to a single number and the bottom has to be simplified down to a single number before we divide. So we'll start inside those red brackets with the exponents. 2 to the third power is 8. Then we have minus 8 times negative 1 times 5 on the top. On the bottom, negative 1 squared is 1 plus 3 times 5. Now, at this point, we're done with exponents. We're now going to multiply and divide from left to right. So on top, the 8 stays. We do 8 times negative 8 times negative 1, which is 8 times 5. And on the bottom, we do 3 times 5. So the 1 is there. I want that to be blue. 1 plus 3 times 5, which is 15. Now we have one more multiplication step to carry out. So we do 8 plus 8 times 5, which is 40, over 1 plus 15. Then we add left to right. That is 48 over 6. And then finally we divide. 48 divided by 6 is 8. So the value of that expression is 8. Same thing for the next problem. This will be the last example on this video. We take the 4, it goes in for x. We take the negative 1, we put that in for y in both places. And we take the 0.5 and we put that in for the z. So our expression becomes negative 1 squared minus 3 times 4 squared times 0.5 all over negative 1 cubed plus 2. Now remember, the fact that we have a fraction bar means we have to start by simplifying the top and simplifying the bottom down to a single number. So we have, we'll start with the exponents on top. Negative 1 squared is 1 minus 3 times 4 squared, which is 16, times 0.5 over On the bottom we have 1 cubed, negative 1 cubed, which is negative 1 plus 2. That takes care of our exponents. Now we're going to multiply left to right, so we're going to show that in 2 steps. We have 1 minus 3 times 16 is 48 times 0.5, and the bottom is unchanged, negative 1 plus 2. Multiply again, so we have 1 minus 48 times 0.5, which is 24, over negative 1 plus 2. That would be negative 23 on top, 1 minus 24, and 1 on the bottom, or negative 23. Hopefully that's enough examples for evaluation. Our next video in this series will cover how to use a formula.